Hello, in this lecture we will take a look at how to integrate the Stripe payments in WPF application. So first of all we have the Stripe dashboard. The Stripe account is created and you can have several different accounts for several different companies. And here you have payments, balance, all that. And the most interesting thing here, the thing that we need to look at, is the developers section. Now also you will see this view test data. Since the account is not activated, you cannot toggle it. However, if it was active, you would change it between test and real data, so be careful. Take a look at which one you are using. So now we have these little requests and all that error distribution and whatever else is there, the statistics. And what we need to find here is the API keys. API keys right here. So you have publishable key, and then you also have secret key, secret token, whichever word you prefer. So you need to review it, of course, and you need to insert the password here, just like that. And also, if you need to change it for some reason, if it has been exposed, you go here and you roll key. You roll key, that means change the key, generate new key. So remember, that's roll key, not delete, change, but roll. Roll the key. So now we have the keys and we can actually get to the project. And so here I have a very simple WPF application. This is, by the way, .NET Core application, WPF .NET Core, but it would work the same way with WPF .NET Framework. So we already have some user interface elements. We have text block for value, or rather text box for value, and then just the text block for little label. You could use label, it doesn't matter, it's not about the UI here. And then we have the card number, then we have a CVC, then we also have two different fields for month and year, which is the expiration month and the year. And then finally we have our little button which will actually send the payment. So on the button click, I need to actually delete it here, and I'll generate a new event. So let's do new event handler, and we will simply do that in a button this time. Obviously you would want to do it in a class library, or perhaps just a simple class if it's a small little project. But we will do this in a button this time. It will be easier to understand. Now, first of all, we have two options here. You could do the raw API call, which would be quite difficult because the actual library for this whole thing is very well made. I have to say this, it's a great library. It's not particularly well documented perhaps, but it's quite easy to use once you get a hang of it. So to do that, let's go right click on the project, let's go to NuGet packages, and in the NuGet packages we will browse for Stripe. Stripe.net. This is our library for this Stripe. So it is an official one, so there's no problem in actually using it. Okay, so just install it, and then it will be quite easy to do, but there are a few things to look at. There are a few things to be careful of, and it's not as straightforward as you might want. to accept, and it should be installed very soon. And we will start first of all from configuration, and what we will do, we will either display the success or failed payment through a simple message box. We won't do any nice designish user interface handling, just a simple message box to see what it looks like and how it works. So let's move to the event, and we first of all we need to create the configuration, the static configuration. So you need to do stripe. And configuration. We will put it as a namespace. So you do stripe configuration, just like that. Let's see if we can find the namespace. And yes, we can. So it's simply using stripe, and then you will be able to use anything stripe related. So it's set configuration, and then you do set API key. Set API key. Set API key, just like that. And now the key, we had it in here, in our little dashboard. This is the secret key. The publishable key is for the front-end integration. So we need to copy it. Copy it just like that. And let's put it in here, just like that, and we have our key set. Also, before we go any further, we actually need a try and catch statement just in case, or rather not just in case, because it does actually handle all the errors. It does handle all the Stripe related errors, and it gives an output. The message, you can give the message, the exception message, to the user. You will see what that looks like later. There's the message box, show, and then let's write failed, and a little colon here, space, plus ex dot message. So that message is very readable, and again, as I mentioned before, you can display it straight to the user. Now, first of all, we need to create a token, a payment token, which will contain the card number, the CVC, and all the card details. That's the token. And once we have that, we will need to make the actual charge, the payment. So we will need to create that charge. So let's start with the options, for the token. And let's do variable, do OPT token, just like that, equals new token create options right here. And we will put in some data in here. Let's do number. See, I'll find number, I think. We cannot find it. Well, we actually need to do the another thing, card we need to do. Because as you can see here, you can have bank account, and you can also have card, and you can also have the stuff customer ID. So you create a customer. You can look into all of that in the API description. Not perhaps in the general description of the whole system, but in the API description. That seems to be a bit more elaborate on certain things. So we will deal with cards here. So let's do card equals new. And then we have credit card options. And then let's do number equals, and that was, we have the user interface element. That's the card number, and we have card number box. Let's do card number box, just like that, and that is the text. And the text will obviously need to be converted to a number, an integer. Or rather not, the number actually goes as a string. The number goes as a string. And then the other two, the next ones, will be converted to an integer. Let's do XP year. The expiration year. It's actually not a semicolon on how you separate it. Okay, so we have XP year, just like that, equals. Now we need to convert right away, so let's do convert to int 32, and then we can do another one. Let's see if we have it. XP month, and equals the same exact thing, just like that. And let's find those, the month box and year box. So for the year, it's gonna be year box and text, and then for the month, it's gonna be month box, text, just like that. And finally, we need the CVC, just like that, equals, and that's gonna be, I believe it's CVC box, and yes it is, CVC box, just like that, the text, not effect, but text we need. And that's it. We have our variables in the card and then in the token. In the token, we need to close it up here. And now we need to create the token. We need to actually create. We have the options. So let's do variable, say token service. That's a common name to use. Equals new token service, actually. Token service. Just like that. So we have that constructed and we can actually use it. So let's create the token. Let's do token. And let's do stripe token. Let's call it equals service token. See. Or is it token service actually? Token service. Just like that. And we need create. We have create. And we need to pass on the options. That is OPT token. Okay, so we have that. And we can actually move further. We have the token and now we need the charge. And for the charge, we need to create the options as well. Now the options will be quite simple. It's just gonna be the amount, the currency, and then a little description and the source ID. So I'll explain what that is. So let's do variable, let's call it options this time, simply options. We can use that name, it's free. Let's do equals new charge options. Let's see if we can find, or rather it's charge create options it is. And let's expand that again the same way. And here we're going to have amount equals, and right away let's convert it. This is gonna be quite interesting and quite important. So let's do convert to int 32. Now you might be thinking, why is money an integer? Well, it's quite simple. It is coming from text, and that is the value box. That is the value box. Let's do value box dot text. So again, the amount here is in cents. It's in cents, and it's also important to remember it is an integer value. It's always an integer value, the amount. So when you are building a system which will need to handle payments, you should keep in mind, and you should actually follow that integer-based money architecture. So everything that has to do with money should be in cents. It won't make much difference, but it will make your job a lot easier and a lot less messy. Now let's move on and let's do a little currency. Currency equals USD. And of course you can take a read on Stripe what currencies we allow and how this whole thing works, how the charge works out and all that. Now next we need to do, we don't have to do it, but let's do a little description. Equals the test transaction, just like that. Okay, it's test transaction. And then let's move on to the source ID. So as you can see, you can have source card. This is another way to do it, but you need source ID in this case. And as you can see, it's a string, so you see how that works. So previously you have created this token. And as you have seen before, you can have customer also, and also the bank account. So you have basically 3 different options to actually pay for that charge. So in this case, we will be using the card, and the card has been created, declared, whichever word you prefer, in this Stripe token, in this token. So that token is going to be our source of payment. And we need to pass on its ID. So let's do source ID equals Stripe token dot ID, and before we click it, you can see that we actually have several different options here. Also, we have this live mode, so if for some reason you need to differentiate something between testing and real world solution, live solution, production solution, again, whichever word you prefer, you can use that to determine if you are using a test token or a live one. And then you have the type, and then you have, you can see if it has been used. Now, 1 token is for 1 charge only. Okay, so we have the ID and we can move on. Finally, we can move on. Okay, so now we need to get the service, charge service this time. Let's do variable service, let's call it. We have it variable free again, as we had with options. And let's do variable service equals new charge service. Okay, so this is now the charge service, and we have the charge options. So all that's left to do now is to make an actual charge. So let's do charge. Let's go it with lowercase. Let's do charge again. Okay, so we have that equals, let's see, service create, just like that. Create, and you need to pass through the options, just like that. Okay, we have that. And now finally you just need to check for one thing: if it is paid or not. So let's do if, just like that. Charge, not char. We need charge. And paid. Paid is a boolean. So just like that. And else if it's not paid. Now, no matter which outcome you get, you should store the charge information in your database. You should do it. At the very least, you should get some authentication of this charge, so that is the ID of it. At the very least, you should get that. And again, you might take in rather the whole thing and keep it in your database. But if you have lots of purchases, you may not want to do that because it will take up a lot of database space and it will cost you a lot of money. But if you don't have a lot of charges, just keep all of that data. It won't hurt you. It will be easier to access it. And also you can see that you get the invoice. So if you need to do something with that, you can see all the values for the invoice. You get charge ID somewhere in here as well. You can get all those values. So you either keep the ID or you keep the whole thing. You can keep the whole thing obviously in the SQL server by stringifying it as a JSON. Okay, so we won't be doing that obviously, there's no point in it. But if charge is paid, then we are good to go. So let's do message box, show, just like that, success. Let's do. And then let's copy this message box and let's put it right here. And let's do failed, which is quite unlikely. It will likely throw an exception if it fails. Now, the charge gets actually charged right away. It doesn't get reserved. So you make a charge, you create a charge, and it gets captured. You don't need to capture it again. It gets captured right away, although that option does exist. If you want to just kind of hold, reserve the money, and don't capture it, that option does exist. So then again, you would deal with that option. You can read about that in the description. There are several good options here if you need to play around with some early deposits, holding of the money, stuff like that. It's quite useful. Okay, so we have that, and it seems that we do actually have everything we need. So now we should just go look at some testing values and actually test it. So the testing happens in this page, or rather with information from this page. So that's stripe.com docs testing if you cannot find it for some reason, which is quite possible. Now if we go down here, you will see lots and lots of numbers. So first of all, you get the numbers for Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, and all those other ones. And then you get some more exotic numbers with different errors and stuff like that. So testing for specific responses and errors. So we have card numbers. So let's see this one. Do something a bit easier. So let's say expired card. That's quite common. Or perhaps incorrect number. And then you have lost card. And then you have simple card decline. So let's get it up and running. And let's actually see how it all works. It should take a second to load. And we will actually start with the simple normal one, the good charge, not the bad charge, the good one. First of all, let's do Visa, and let's put it in here. Now for the CVC, you just enter any three-digit number. Okay, so any number, and the date has to be any valid date in the future. So that's not valid, obviously. And we need, let's say 12, and let's do 15. Now, one thing to note here, we added that value in cents, so this is gonna be just 15 cents. Now, this is going to be $1.50. So it's important to remember that you do have to go at some point from decimal to integer and vice versa. Okay, so let's try to submit it and see if it works or not. See. And it does actually work. I thought it wouldn't, but it does. It does work perfectly, it seems. We have success. Now let's try something that wouldn't work. Let's see. The stolen card. Let's do expired card. Let's copy that. And let's paste the number here. Let's do submit. And as you can see, that's the response. That's the text response. You have failed. Your card has expired. Your card has expired. Dot. That is the actual response, the exception response, which I would say is more than useful, and none of us would write a better response than this one. So again, you can play around and test it, and that will be all for today.